In a prison, the silence was suddenly broken by a fierce fight. Yu Sung was fighting alone against dozens of other prisoners. Wung Chul, who was concentrating on his sewing work, was angered by the sounds of the fight. Wung Chul immediately went out to see what was going on. It turned out that Yu Sung was a new prisoner. Before going to prison, he had been a policeman. Therefore, Yu Sung made the prisoners hate him to the core. Surprisingly, Yu Sung's fighting ability was extremely strong. Even though he was beaten up by other prisoners, Yu Sung was not at all weak. He continuously attacked, causing many other prisoners to fall. Wung Chul was annoyed by the noise and felt unhappy. He walked while talking nonsense and cursing towards the factory. When Wung Chul appeared, the other prisoners were afraid and moved aside. In this way, Yu Sung was rescued. However, Yu Sung stood up. Not only did he not thank Wung Chul, he even blamed Wung Chul for meddling in other people's business. After that, Yu Sung immediately threw a punch at Wung Chul. Provoked, Wung Chul didn't bother to say much, directly using one hand to strangle Yu Sung's neck, pinning him against the wall. Wung Chul only used a little force, and Yu Sung, who had been aggressive just now, fainted. Immediately after, Wung Chul immediately threw him to the ground. But suddenly he remembered the beloved pink glove on his hand. Wung Chul exclaimed that he almost ruined it. After that, he scolded Yu Sung for being such a bastard. The reason Wung Chul treasured this glove so much was because it was a gift from his close comrade before he went to prison. Every time seeing that glove, Wung Chul felt as if he saw his good teammates still by his side. However, Wung Chul had no idea that his teammate had died outside. At this time, Yu Sung stood up to challenge Wung Chul. However, the warden arrived at the scene and dispersed everyone. Then the warden called Wung Chul aside. After receiving the newspaper, Wung Chul knew that his good teammate had died. The murderer seemed to be a gang with extremely cruel methods. The body had even floated in the sea for 8 days before being discovered by the police. When Wung Chul received the news, he angrily slammed his hand on the table. Seeing this, the warden gave him 2 days off to visit his teammate, because the warden understood that Wung Chul was not a bad person. Previously, Wung Chul had taken all the responsibility for his teammate's crime and had to go to jail. When he got out, Wung Chul went to his comrade's portrait. After putting away the pink glove, Wung Chul silently vowed to find the culprit and avenge his comrade. He then went to Gutak, who had built his career with Wung Chul. Gutak used to be a police officer, but now he had cancer and no longer had the strength to help Wung Chul. Luckily, Gutak gave Wung Chul a clue. Gutak then told Wung Chul to go find Mi Young, a former comrade. She had recently been investigating an organization. The organization was called the Central Faction Organization. Gutak suspected that Wung Chul's teammate might have been murdered by this organization. So as soon as he was released from prison, Wung Chul immediately called Mi Young. When she heard the phone call, she thought he had escaped, but Wung Chul said he had been given 2 days off. The two talked for a while and then made an appointment to meet later. At this time, Mi Young was escorting the prisoners, but the car ran out of gas halfway. Strangely, they had checked everything before leaving. Why did this happen? Because the destination was still far away. They had to leave the highway and go to a nearby gas station. During a short break, Mi Young saw a beautiful female prisoner being led out. This female prisoner named No Soon was not ordinary, but a major fraudster on the wanted list. The police had spent a lot of effort to catch her. When No Soon passed by the nearby prison bus, her long, slender legs and sexy body curves immediately made the entire prison bus stare with excitement. They were shouting loudly in the car. No Soon didn't even look. She raised a finger in a gesture of contempt, but the male prisoners saw this and became even more agitated. At this moment, they just wanted to take her home. After that, No Soon was put on the transport vehicle. After filling up with gas, the convoy continued on the highway. However, before they had gone a few kilometers, a heavy truck was waiting. It suddenly rushed straight into the police team, knocked the first police car over and immediately crashed into the second one, but its real target was the bus carrying the male prisoners. The bus was not able to avoid it and was hit and overturned. The accident caused countless prisoners to faint. However, many prisoners who were conscious immediately tried to escape. At the same time, No Soon quickly took advantage of the opportunity to unlock the handcuffs. Then, a group of masked thugs got off the truck. They headed straight for the bus. Their main target was the prisoner Sang-sik inside. Just as the thugs were gradually approaching Sang-sik, Yu Sung, who had just woken up, immediately attacked and knocked him down. Although he was a prisoner, Yu Sung had a very upright heart. It turned out that before he went to prison, when Yu Sung was still a police officer on duty, the prisoner suddenly died of a heart attack. That was why he was convicted of manslaughter and unjustly imprisoned. It was clear that the robbers in front of him had made careful preparations, but Yu Sung was determined not to let them achieve their goal. Seeing this, Sang-sik immediately took the opportunity to prepare to escape. When the robbers got out of the car to chase after him, Sang-sik had disappeared without a trace. voice. On this side, Yu Sung immediately pulled out the police radio, hoping that police would soon send reinforcements. The robbers discovered his actions. They immediately charged forward with weapons. Fortunately, Mi Young woke up in time to stop them, but unfortunately, no matter how good at martial arts, he could not fight the robber with their weapons. During the struggle, Mi Young was stabbed by the robber. Seeing that, Yu Sung immediately rushed forward and kicked the robber away, but the robber still refused to give up. He continued to stab with his weapon, but fortunately, Yu Sung was able to handle everything. Yu Sung even pinned the robber to the car. After that, Yu Sung tried to pull off the robber's mask, but only saw the tattoo on the robber's neck. At this time, the robber had already gotten up and escaped from Yu Sung. Yu Sung staggered to his feet and tried to chase after him, but was hit by a car that rushed forward, throwing him far away and knocking him unconscious. When Yu Sung woke up, he found himself in the hospital. At the same time, Wung Chol and Gu Ta came to visit Mi Young. Wung Chol saw the people close to him in danger one after another, and he immediately felt extremely angry. Now, the only person left alive had cancer. Although Wung Chol did not know who the real culprit was, he guessed that he could not escape being involved with the gang. If he did not take revenge, he was not a man. So Wung Chol decided to take revenge in his own way. He rushed into the gang's territory alone. The thugs in the room did not have the slightest chance to fight back. With just a few punches from Wung Chol, they were defeated. Even though the opponent had a large number, Wung Chol did not lose the advantage. In the blink of an eye, all of them were lying on the ground. After that, Wung Chol pressed the leader's head down on the table and asked him where the current boss was. The other side said that their boss was Sang-sik, but now he was in prison. At this time, Wung Chol still did not know that Sang-sik had escaped. In another development, Gu Tak brought the documents that Mi Young had provided to question the police chief about prisoner transfer. The police chief explained that among the prisoners was a man named Sang-sik. He was the gang boss. After being arrested, he was sent to prison. Strangely, a month ago, Sang-sik had sought out Mi Young for help. He had claimed that he was not the boss and that someone wanted to kill him. Sang-sik had said that if the police guaranteed his safety, he was willing to reveal all the crimes of the gang that he knew. He also revealed that the real person behind the gang was using huge sums of money to bribe politicians while secretly conducting illegal business. And the truth happened exactly as Sang-sik said. Even in prison, he was still assassinated. The police were forced to transfer Sang-sik to another place, but it was unclear who leaked the information, leading to this prison break. In order to quickly recapture the escaped prisoners, the police chief suggested that Gu Tak return, form a special crime investigation team, gather prisoners who had committed crimes, and use their abilities to investigate the case. On this side, Yu Sung was in the hospital room. A moment later, Gu Tak walked in. Without a doubt, with his status as a former police officer who had been wrongly convicted, Yu Sung became the #1 candidate for Gu Tak's special investigation team. Gu Tak promised that if Yu Sung joined the investigation team to solve the case, this could help Yu Sung reduce his sentence by 5 years and restore his status. The second candidate was Wung Chol. However, Wung Chol did not care much about the sentence reduction. His only goal was to avenge his good teammate. After that, the three of them began to discuss the plan. This time, there were a total of 4 escaped prisoners that they needed to recapture. The first was a bespectacled serial killer. In 2 years, he had killed 18 people in a row. His victims were all people who were defenseless, such as the elderly and women. The second was a middle-aged evildoer. This man was very skilled in martial arts, and he escaped easily even when surrounded by 10 policemen, so they had to be especially careful with him. The third was Sang-sik, who was also the main target of the prison breakers. And finally, the swindler, No Soon. As soon as Wung Chol saw No Soon's picture, he immediately said that he knew this woman. She was a friend of one of Wung Chol's former subordinates, Chol-ju. Finally, the three of them finished their preparations. They decided to capture No Soon first. After that, the three of them went to lie in ambush at a nearby restaurant. Sure enough, Chol-ju was at a restaurant demanding protection money. The owner only begged them to delay for a few days. Chol-ju immediately ordered his accomplices to chase the customers away. When almost all the customers had left, Chol-ju discovered that there was still someone in the corner who refused to leave. He immediately decided to teach this person a lesson. As a result, that person turned around, and it turned out to be Wung Chol. Chol-ju saw that it was his old boss and immediately took a few steps back in fear. Wung Chol mocked him for being better lately. It seemed like he had done a lot of bad things. The thug standing behind him heard this and immediately wanted to teach Wung Chol a lesson. Chol-ju panicked and pulled him back, telling his accomplices to run away. At this moment, Wung Chol couldn't hold it in anymore and called the thug back. He was still arrogant just now, but now Wung Chol used one hand to push him down onto the table. Wung Chol told him to pay for the food for the guests who had just been chased away. then clean up the place. Immediately after that, Wung Chul called Chulju over, but at this moment he was like a lost soul, running away. Chulju ran into a warehouse, not forgetting to lock several layers of doors, but Chulju was still not at ease, so he hid in the innermost warehouse and locked several more layers. Chulju stood still, not daring to breathe heavily. As a result, in the next second, Wung Chul opened the door to find him. Chulju panicked, continuously apologizing to Wung Chul. Chulju even tried to make a surprise attack, but was knocked down by Wung Chul with one punch. The next day, the team asked Chulju to lure No Soon out. The two hugged tightly when they met, but then, No Soon quickly discovered something unusual about Chulju. Then, Wung Chul and Gu Tak came out. No Soon panicked, took out a knife, and held Chulju hostage, but Wung Chul completely ignored that. He stepped forward aggressively, realizing that the situation was not good. No Soon had no choice but to run away. She slipped and passed through the obstacle. She thought she had escaped for a moment. As a result, as soon as she reached the door, Yu Sung blocked her way. Seeing that she was surrounded from front to back, she had no choice but to kneel down and surrender. So No Soon was tied up by several people and taken back to the base, but No Soon was not content. She kept screaming. Seeing that she was too troublesome, Wung Chul had no choice but to untie her. After being freed, Soon realized that the team was chasing an escaped prisoner. At this time, Yu Sung ran over with a clue. Through the surveillance camera, everyone discovered that Sang Sik was running away with the legendary escapee Chang Sik, a man who had been hiding from the police for 3 years. Just when everyone was at a loss as to how to catch these criminals, No Soon stepped forward and said that she knew one of the two prisoners, Chang Sik. They had worked together before. No Soon had been responsible for using her beauty to attract people's attention. Chang Sik had waited for a chance to break into houses and rob money. The most important thing was that not many people knew Chang Sik at the moment. No Soon wanted Gu Tak to give her a chance to redeem herself with merit. Gu Tak agreed immediately, but on the condition that she had to wear a tracking bracelet on her leg. As long as she caught the criminal, No Soon's sentence would be reduced by 5 years. Hearing this, No Soon agreed without thinking. After that, No Soon finished a cup of caramel and began to analyze. Chang Sik had committed crimes in every corner of the map, but he had never appeared in Gangwon. No Soon continued to speak. According to his habit, whenever he went to a place, Chang Sik would transform himself into a rich tycoon. The purpose was to charm single women and hide his identity. Finally, after many screenings, the team narrowed down and targeted a woman. At night, No Soon found the woman. Seeing that the woman seemed to be sneaky, No Soon immediately started a conversation with this woman to confirm her guess. No Soon asked her if she was going to bring food to Chang Sik. Was a pervert who had deceived many women. Was a pervert who had deceived many women. Even No Soon's younger sister was one of those victims. At this time, the woman immediately felt that something was wrong, so she went to find Chang Sik and told him about the police coming to find him. Chang Sik panicked and wanted to escape that night, but unfortunately, Gu Tak's team had been ambushing here for a long time. However, with his agility, Chang Sik escaped from Gu Tak and Yu Sung's encirclement with just one jump. After running a long distance, Chang Sik breathed a sigh of relief. Unexpectedly, at this time, Chang Sik was pushed by Wung Chul with oil barrels and was seriously injured. Finally, Chang Sik was caught. At this time, the woman was still concerned about Chang Sik, but the next second, Chang Sik put a knife to her neck. Only then did she realize that everything No Soon told her was true. She immediately took out a pepper spray and sprayed it into Chang Sik's eyes. Chang Sik couldn't see anything and waved the knife around, but Wung Chul rushed forward and punched him, knocking him unconscious. Unexpectedly, a police car was approaching at this moment. Wung Chul quickly dodged but was still injured in the arm. After that, 2 police officers got out of the car and pulled Chang Sik up. It turned out that they came to steal credit from Gu Tak's team. They forced Chang Sik into the car and drove away. Gu Tak was so angry that he had a heart attack, so everyone could only watch them leave helplessly. Gu Tak was seriously ill and could not carry out his mission. But then, Wung Chul, Yu Sung, and No Soon stormed into the police station. Yu Sung entered the interrogation room. He immediately swung an iron bar and knocked out the police officer, then interrogated Chang Sik. He asked him if he knew where Sang Sik was hiding. Chang Sik refused to cooperate at first. At this time, No Soon rushed in and kicked him, making him extremely scared. The beaten Chang Sik felt extremely wronged. He said that he really did not know where Sang Sik was. He was just accidentally captured by the station camera in the same frame as Sang Sik. After hearing that, Yu Sung immediately analyzed the photo. He realized that Chang Sik was not lying. These two people just happened to pass by and were photographed together. So the team had to change their plan, and they decided to start with the serial killer, Sung Tae. After that, the group went to Sung Tae's wife's house to investigate, but he still hadn't come home. The wife said that she regretted reporting Sung Tae because that crazy guy was now out of prison and would definitely find a chance to take revenge on her. The three of them were helpless before the wife's complaints. They apologized to Sung Tae's wife and left. Just as the wife predicted, Sung Tae was now searching for his wife's whereabouts. Because he only remembered his wife's ID number, Sung Tae wanted to ask the police to look up the address. However, the police refused to do so. Immediately after that, Sung Tae went crazy, pulled out a weapon, and beat the police officer to death on the spot. Then Sung Tae took the walkie-talkie and pretended to be a police officer to investigate his wife's address. Luckily, this scene was recorded by the security camera. Yu Sung zoomed in on the photo and found that Sang-sik was also present at the scene. At this time, No Soon called Yu Sung and informed him that Sung Tae's wife had run away. After the wife arrived at the karaoke bar, she saw the manager lying dead. Then, Sung Tae calmly walked out of the restroom. The wife was frightened and fell to the ground. Sung Tae immediately grabbed the ashtray and hit the wife straight on the head. When No Soon arrived, the door was locked, so she could only look through the crack of the door and see the woman gasping for breath in the room. No Soon was helpless and had to call for help. At this moment, Woong Chol rushed in with a hammer. With a hammer strike on the iron door, he broke it in half. No Soon rushed in and threw the ashtray straight at Sung Tae's head. Woong Chol didn't say a word and threw a strong punch at Sung Tae's face. Then, Woong Chol hugged him tightly around the waist and lifted him up high. Next, Woong Chol used strong pressure to knock Sung Tae down on the spot. At that moment, Yu Sung arrived and ran into Sang-sik. Seeing that the other party was about to capture him, Sang-sik desperately tried to escape, but in the end was still pushed down from a high place by Yu Sung. After capturing Sang-sik, Woong Chol immediately wanted to avenge his good teammate, but Sang-sik insisted that he did not kill anyone. Under pressure from the three people, Sang-sik revealed that the real mastermind was the Japanese gang leader, Yoshihara. After unifying the gangs in Japan, their ambition to expand made them turn their attention to the Korean gangs. Now Sang-sik is just their puppet. They use their huge financial resources to bribe high-ranking Korean politicians, secretly trade in contraband, conduct human experiments, and even trade in organs. At that time, Sang-sik was being hunted by Yoshihara's organization because he held evidence of their crimes. Suddenly, a large police force appeared. It turned out that the police chief had been bribed by Yoshihara and had become his henchman. In front of the guns, everyone had no choice but to stand still, not daring to resist. After that, the police took the evidence from Woong Chol's hands. Sang-sik was arrested separately to create a fake scene of accidental death. The police chief also set a fire to stage the scene, then tied the three people to a pillar and left. Before leaving, the police chief ordered someone to guard the door and make sure the three of them were really dead. At that moment, everyone in the house was having trouble breathing from the smoke and trying to find a way to escape. Woong Chol knew he had to do something. He used his strength to try to break free from the rope. The terrifying pulling force made No Soon and Yu Sung groan in pain. Woong Chol's strength made the pillar seem to crack. Finally, the rope was removed. The house pillar also broke in half, shattering. The problem then was finding an escape route, but the surroundings were tightly sealed. Once again, Woong Chol gritted his teeth, determined to use his strength. Immediately, he transformed into a mad bull, broke the door, and escaped. But Yu Sung had already choked on the smoke and passed out. Woong Chol had no choice but to perform CPR on him. However, the danger was not over yet, because there were still police officers outside the gate monitoring them. Luckily, Gutak drove up in time, rammed the police officers on guard, and caused them to faint on the spot. It turned out that while in the hospital, Gutak was assassinated by an assassin. Realizing something was wrong, Gutak immediately subdued the other party, then drove to the scene to gather with his teammates. At this moment, the four-man team was considered fully assembled. After preparing everything, they decided to conduct a sweep of the Yoshihara gang's lair. Following the clues, they found the location of the other party's drug factory, and inside gathered more than 1,000 members, but more importantly, the problem of breaking in. Finally, Woong Chol called an old subordinate and told him to pretend to be a shipper and break into the factory. Then, with agility, Woong Chol's subordinate knocked out the guards after a few kicks. Immediately after that, he opened the factory gate wide for Woong Chol and everyone to enter. Woong Chol's subordinate ended the fight and reunited with everyone. In front of the building, a fierce battle was about to begin. On this side, gang boss Yoshihara was giving the police chief an ideological education. Then, Yoshihara stood up, put on his weapon, and slowly walked in front of Sang-sik and broke his fingers. Then, Yoshihara delivered a series of deadly punches to the head, killing Sang-sik. When Yoshihara knew that police's plan had been exposed, he immediately became furious. Yoshihara ordered his men to beat up the police chief, and then poured a whole glass of poison into his mouth. Yoshihara intended to blame the prison break on the police chief. On this side, 5 people began to enter the building. The employees who saw them immediately showed looks of terror. Immediately after that, Woong Wung Chol cut the power to all the entrances and exits and declared that no one would be able to get out of there. The leader was still stubborn, wanting to teach them a lesson. But before Wung Chol could take action, his subordinates had already kicked one of them down. At this point, Wung Chol was not willing to give up. He immediately charged forward, punching each of them down. Meanwhile, the gang boss was watching through the camera. Seeing that the situation was not good, he called more subordinates to come out to support. Immediately after, countless subordinates dropped what they were doing and rushed straight towards them. Even though they were surrounded and beaten by hundreds of people, Wung Chol remained unusually calm. He immediately told Yu Sung and Gu Tak to go up the elevator first, while he and No Soon would stay behind to fight. After that, the three of them combined to perform a dramatic scene, 3 against 100. Meanwhile, when Yu Sung and Gu Tak went upstairs, they were also blocked and beaten. Gu Tak did not say much and immediately fired continuously. Next, he shot the elevator cable to the second floor to prevent the gang boss from escaping by elevator. After the gun ran out of bullets, Gu Tak immediately picked up the sledgehammer next to him to continue fighting. Downstairs, Wung Chol finished the fight and intended to go upstairs to support the two. Unexpectedly, this floor was also filled with enemies. In just a moment, Wung Chol had no way to retreat. He smiled friendly, then continuously threw punches at the enemies. He grabbed the wrench from one of them, then quickly took down 2 more. At this time, the enemies began to rush forward to attack. Even though he was pushed into a corner, Wung Chol still displayed his skillful martial arts. Any enemy who rushed forward was either thrown away by Wung Chol or finished off with a powerful punch. In just a moment, Wung Chol had wiped out all of them. The last employee was frightened when he saw this, automatically holding his stomach and fainting. Meanwhile, the gang boss realized that the situation was unstable, so he grabbed the accounting books and ran away with his bodyguard. At that moment, Yu Sung and Gu Tak also arrived. The bodyguard immediately let the gang boss go first, while he stayed behind to block the two. This bodyguard was very strong. Gu Tak was gently grabbed by the neck and thrown away. Seeing that, Yu Sung also decided to risk his life fighting him, but his exhausted body left him clearly overpowered by the bodyguard. Fortunately, the bodyguard still could not defeat Yu Sung. At this moment, Wung Chol approached and asked if he needed help. Yu Sung signaled to let him deal with this guy alone and asked Wung Chol to go to the rooftop to capture the fleeing gang boss. But at this moment, he was still completely overwhelmed by the bodyguard, continuously being knocked away and seriously injured. Fortunately, in the critical moment, Yu Sung took advantage of the terrain to knock the bodyguard down the stairs, finishing off his opponent completely. Wung Chol's side quickly reached the rooftop door. With a mad bull-like charge, Wung Chol broke down the door. Then, he leisurely walked towards the gang boss. The subordinates still desperately rushed at Wung Chol. With his powerful ability, he faced countless blades calmly. Each punch he threw knocked down one. Finally, it was a combination of a takedown and a finishing blow, finishing off the subordinates. Seeing this, the gang boss had no choice but to put on his weapon. At first, he took advantage of his equipment, forcing Wung Chol to continuously retreat. Unexpectedly, the gang boss's powerful punch was still dodged by Wung Chol. After that, Wung Chol seized the opportunity. He tightly held the gang boss's arm and threw him to the ground. But this gang boss clearly had very strong abilities. He continuously landed iron punches on Wung Chol, causing him to painfully fall to one knee. Fortunately, Wung Chol was still able to block the gang boss's decisive punch. When the two were in a battle of strength, the gang boss was no match for Wung Chol. He used his strength and broke one of the gang boss's hands. The gang boss was not convinced and charged forward. As a result, Wung Chol also broke his other hand. Finally, Wung Chol punched with all his strength as complete revenge for his friend. On this side, Gu Tak found the police chief and punched him. That evil police chief would have to face the punishment of the law. Not long after, a series of police officers rushed to surround the factory. But what they did not expect was that all the gang members inside were lying on the floor. The 4-person investigation team walked out with the mindset of winners. Another good news was that Gu Tak had found a suitable donor liver, ensuring his life was prolonged. Gu Tak's teammates also regained their freedom and started a new life. The movie ended here. Thank you for your attention. Goodbye, and see you again.